Welcome back to the Morningscape podcast. I am your host, Depressed Jay Mitchell, here with Matt Moody to go over the Thursday slate after what I could only describe as, I would say, the most tilting slate of my entire life on Tuesday. Matt, how are you doing?
Doing fine. My alma mater did not cover their spread on their college basketball game. They only won by 21. St. John's is ranked, so it's kind of a cool experience. I can't remember the last time St. John's was nationally ranked, so been enjoying some college basketball, and yeah, that's about it. Last night, I don't know. You were exceptionally tilted about it. It was stupid, but at the end of the day, Winnipeg did enough for me to cash. And yes, the timing, the temporal nature of things certainly hurt. And, thinking, oh, I'm going to 7x or I'm going to 15x, and that turning into a 1.5x made for, not a fun night, but certainly not the end of the world. And we're already on to Wednesday. I did write up the Wednesday slate in the newsletter. If you are not subscribed to that, if you somehow missed my belligerent discording and tweeting of said article, you should just go to moods.beehive.com and subscribe, because you'll get it sent right to your email inbox, and therefore you won't miss it. So I might do it again for Friday's slate too. So just be on the lookout.
No, there is. Yeah, no. And the thing is like, you could never tilt losing a slate where you made money than when you weren't winning, but you can always tilt when you're literally in first place at 11:30 p.m. and end up basically min cashing. I think it wasn't exactly a min cash, but more or less just a min cash. I think it sucks. But what are you gonna do? I agree. You made a little money, better than losing money. Bet it didn't quite get there, so we move on. Welcome in to the Dark Knight from the Discord. Richards, welcome in. Welcome in anyone else joining us right now. Yep, the tiers are all over the floor for me, but we just got to move on. Are we backwards? Oh yeah, because I always join first. So now you're first because you joined first for like the first time ever.
Here. I'll fix it for the people.
I never even thought about that. Oh, he's finally
gone.
Go. Dang it. Yeah, no, but I do think, like, overall, like, looking back at the slate, we were almost entirely accurate on most things, which is why you normally cash. Like other than the fact that we didn't play Edmonton, but like that just, what are you gonna do? Like, Boston smashed.
Yeah.
Seattle was a really good play. There's a bunch of plays in there. The Vancouver stuff was all more or less on target. And then, the Rangers and the Winnipeg game was good. I was, I was like, hey, I'm playing. I think I'm going to play Winnipeg. I think that's a sharp thing. And you were like, you know what else is really good? Is like, I don't know, the third line for the Rangers could be a good pivot. Like, we really were all over just on stuff and somewhat rewarded. But anything else you want to speak on Tuesday?
Yeah, no, my approach was Winnipeg won with Morrissey and with Nino Niederreiter. So he put up an absolute zero. We'll talk about that because Winnipeg's on the slate again. But that was, pretty disappointing, and certainly the reason I wasn't contending with you at the top of contests. But I did want to shout out a Discord member who took down the Fantasy Hockey World Championship qualifier last night. He tagged us in the Discord, basically saying, "Hey, I stacked up DJ's top 2 stacks, and look at this, I won a $20,000 seat." So, congrats to B Thrasher. Let's see, in the Discord he is Towel IEE. So thank you for checking in. That certainly was a positive outcome.
I think my for top the 2 stacks were Edmonton and Boston.
Yeah. So
yeah,
he played. Yeah, he played a Boston 5 stack, McDavid, Bouchard, and Pia Suter. The final thing I just wanted to say about the last night was the other thing I got like completely right was, like, I sat here on the podcast and was like, it's kind of strange that that Pia Suter's on the top power play, because all preseason without Brock Besser was Jonathan Lekaramaki, and they just called up Lekaramaki, and come game time, what do you know? 30% owned Pia Suter is not on the top power play. he scores anyway because
Yep.
that's just the donkey idiot for you. But Pia Suter was in our friend there's B Thrasher's lineup, so I guess good for him. But also it was a one-off. Like Sissama won the entire slate. We didn't even talk about that because you were so worried about yourself. But I think he finished second with the train and the $15. He won, the 400. He won all the single entry stuff, and he played Pia Suter with Elias Pettersson, like just the most uncorrelated garbage possible. And of course wins because, why the hell not? You just jam in the chalk and win every night. So we're on to Thursday, where fortunately there's a lot of chalk here and a lot of obvious places. And yeah, I can't really find a Winnipeg one type pivot off of it like Winnipeg was the other night. So
I really do think like we both played really well. It does suck to go away from what I normally do and I almost always play my top two no matter what. And I couldn't make it work. Just because again, like you were getting these kind of like weird one-off plays that I just didn't have a lot of faith in being anything but potentially bad chalk. So I pivot over to Winnipeg and I'm like, I win. Like I did it, and then just to get punched in the mouth. And then like, as you're like, ow, right in the balls. And you're like, okay, that's enough. And they're like, and then we're going to cut your head off. And it's like, all right, that's unnecessary. Like, please don't do that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I texted you, oh, it'll take 3 goals to get you out of first place.
That's exactly.
And those 3 goals happened within 3 minutes of each other, like real time, 3 minutes.
It would take 3 very unfortunate goals or maybe 2 of the perfect goals. And it was just 3 of the perfect goals. Like just exact, like, yeah. And then because again, like it would have needed 2 to really hurt, but 3 to potentially bury my entire night. And it just happened. Like I'd equate it to like, oh, okay, as long as this quarterback and this receiver don't score 2 touchdowns and there's a minute left in the game and they score the touchdown, they get the onside kick and they score a touchdown. You're just like, that never happens. And like at McDavid, though, it can. So it is what it is. We move on. Are you ready for Philadelphia at Ottawa?
Yeah. Just a quick overview of the slate we're looking at. Another slate where there's really not much that is fun, like where we're talking about like a pace, shot attempt pace, and this is all context or contextualized around league averages. So like on the year, the league average team is getting about 57 shot attempts per 60 at 5-on-5, and so you double that and you get 114. Well, you look at the pace based on the 10-game trends of every single team on this slate, and outside of the Rangers and San Jose, every game falls short of that 114 sort of average mark. And so obviously things, as the season progresses will change. And so maybe we're just looking at an early season explosion and that'll neutralize as the season goes along. I don't really know, but it is interesting. We just sort of see a lot of red here, not a lot of green, not a lot of blue. So it's going to be another slate where, I'll be pretty interested in overstacking a single spot and, hoping to get another 6-goal explosion and, just hoping that the chalk stays in check for a slate. So that's at least my first approach, that could change as things develop and news comes and whatnot. But that's certainly from a high level what I'm looking to do here. Some of the top teams on the slate, if you are an audio listener, looks like the Rangers, Ottawa against Philly, the Rangers play San Jose, of course, Edmonton against Nashville, and even San Jose's matchup looks pretty good, but we'll dive into some of the Rangers stuff when we get to that game. So starting it off with Philadelphia and Ottawa, where you got confirmation that the Philly lines are staying the way that they were on Monday night, where they played the Sharks, and they won, so good for that. I'm not positive on the D pairs, to be honest, but the first line, Tippett, Couturier, Konechny, perfectly correlated on the power play, and Michkov on the third line, technically, with Richard, Paling, Michkov, and then Farabee, Lawton, Brink is sort of like line 2, but line 3, I don't know. Who cares? But DJ, what do we have for this game, and what do you like on the Flyer side?
Not a lot. I mean, I think that one thing that I kind of stuck to, largely in DFS, of course, on Underdog, I'm kind of drafting everything, was I think Ottawa's actually pretty good. Maybe it's not going to last forever. Maybe there is a good pivot play, against Ottawa at some point, but right now they are playing pretty well all around. I get the attraction to the top line, the fully correlated top power play, Tippett, Konechny, Couturier. I definitely understand how good Michkov is, and benching him was stupid, but whatever. He took it in stride. This Emil Andre guy is top power play. I guess he's your Bolinski's on a bad team, but 4.75 shot attempts per game is not zero. There's stuff here, but I just don't know if I'm gonna attack this spot. Just seems unnecessary to me. But if I was going to, I just think I take the correlation. But yeah, 25 minutes for the Andre last game. He saw 20 the game before. Like this is a punt defenseman to mention. Other than that, I don't think I'm spending a lot of cap here.
Yeah, 3K for Andre seems pretty solid. He's a second rounder in 2020, so still a young guy. He didn't show a ton in the AHL last year. He played 61 games there and was right around like the average, what you'd expect shots wise, which doesn't tend to portend a great, DFS player in the future. But for 3,000 on a top power play that, has all the main guys, like for whatever Torts has done at 5-on-5, he's really not screwed with the power play much. And he's gotten rewarded for that. Andre's fine at 3K and should continue to receive minutes beyond that of someone like Bolinskis, who we'll get to in just a few games here. So on the Ottawa side, they shut out the Leafs in convincing fashion on Tuesday, so no changes are expected here. With Shane Pinto back, that third line looks a little interesting for a combined 9,000, though Pinto's the only guy from that line on a power play unit. You look at their expected fantasy point production, and it's not bad. And when you get a 9,000 total line, that's not bad. I think you could at least pay attention to it. They've not been productive whatsoever, but that all can change. Of course, you need to be taking the shots in order for those shots to go in, and they all are to some degree. But I think the main focus here should be in the top six: Tkachuk, Norris, Gregg, Giroux, Stützle, Batherson. I know Josh Norris up with Brady Tkachuk is new. Is that where you're leaning, or are you leaning toward Claude Giroux and his power play one line mates?
Giroux was not in the top power play. I mean, I think I'm just like, I'm not sure if it's any, like, if I'm gonna have anything here, to be honest. I don't have a problem with either of the top lines. Norris on the cover. I do really like Josh Norris a lot. He's killing penalties. He's taking the top power play. He's playing with Brady Tkachuk. So like, I do think there's probably better floor stats than have been shown, which have been, a lot of zero shots. I mean, 0 blocks, 1 shots. There's 1 blocks bonus just kind of randomly thrown in the mix, and like not a ton of peak in the shot category, which is a bit surprising. He's been efficient, but not he has 130, I guess is the way to put it, in his repertoire in the season. Like not a lot of peak scores, and his price is reflecting of that, but it's in his range of outcomes. I guess the thing about Philly is like, we're like, oh, this punt defenseman kind of came out of nowhere. It seems like an option. And it's like, well, he got 25 minutes. So wait, like who do they have? And York is out, Drysdale's out. I feel like they're watching, Ristolainen and Eric Johnson and these guys, and they're saying like, we can't keep playing these guys, but we have to. It's a good matchup to attack. I think I would just go all the way in then, and I go all the way in on either line. I honestly don't even think it's inherently bad process to play Ridley Gregg. I know we kind of dunk on the guy, but he's getting enough minutes that like if Josh Norris is getting 3 points, Ridley Gregg could at 2,900 come along for the ride. So like I would go all the way. Like you need them to all kind of reach a peak together, which seemingly only Brady has done.
Yeah, and if Gregg's 10% owned, I'm not interested. But if he's 3% or where if he hits, you're actually gaining separation from the field versus just like tagging along. I think that's sort of the line of delineation, because you can see 5 expected fantasy points per game, not very good for Ridley Gregg. Like he's very much he's going to need to score pretty much to make value, or something completely out of the ordinary has to happen. I will say on the Flyers front, Cam York will travel with the team. Torts was kind of, he sort of tossed away the question of whether he would play or not, but he did say he would travel. And it's a 1-game trip for Philly. I believe their next game's at home. So Seems weird if he travels and doesn't play, but maybe it's truly a game time decision for Cam York. But worth keeping an eye out for, because if Cam York doesn't play, like you said about Andre, very, very good value option. I lean toward the top line in Ottawa myself. Again, Josh Norris is a one-off, makes perfect sense. So yeah, that would be my lean. But Brady Tkachuk always in play in virtually any matchup. So on to the next game on this 10-game slate, Winnipeg and Tampa.
Yeah, I guess probably a ton to mention on Winnipeg that we haven't said every time they're on every slate. It all makes sense to me. Like Connor, Scheifele, Velarde scored the goal of the night on Tuesday night with his kind of bouncing the puck, dribbling it almost to the front and pass to Ehlers and then tap it in, and beautiful goal. Like these guys are great. They can all play. The price is fair. Like I think Velarde is still probably a touch cheap. Like he was like 10 or 11% on Tuesday comparatively to his line mates who were like 5 or 6, which is a bit strange. Like I got it on a smaller slate and he was a value and it did work out okay. But I do like them all together. Like I think that's definitely the way I'd play it. And then but not a great matchup. But what were you gonna say?
Well, let's play DJ guess the line. What is the line in this game? Winnipeg, Tampa.
God. I
Tampa
did not
home.
look at it yet. I'm gonna guess Tampa plus 105.
Tampa's a favorite here. Minus 125 for Tampa against the 15-1 Winnipeg Jets.
I'm not shocked, but yeah,
that feels wrong.
I flipped it. I thought maybe they'd be okay.
Yeah, I mean that seems reasonable. But Tampa's also going to be without Braden Point still. Like there's no update on him. So yeah, I think we can go right back to line 1 here. Tampa doesn't look as deficient defensively as the Rangers did, coming into to that matchup. But ownership should be really low here as well. So I have no problem running it back. You can already see with 9 expected fantasy points per game, Niederreiter still looks solid, but that number was 11 before last game. I'm pretty sure he didn't have a single shot. Yeah, I don't think he had a single shot attempt, happens, but that's how you can see these things are finicky. And so, always use caution when looking at these types of small sample sizes, but it also helps highlight, which players are getting the process that should drive results. And it's hard to argue. Nino Niederreiter, say that 10 times fast, has gotten a lot of results out of his play so far on the year. So, I have no problem with him again, but with more options, probably not necessary on this 10 gamer. Otherwise, Neil Pionk smashed again, the revenge spot that we all missed out on, but 5,600, I don't think there's anything there. But he's been awesome. I mean, Jesus, he's been unbelievable this season.
Every game. He's over a point per game. Just Neil Pionk, as we all expected. And so is Josh Morrissey, and the Winnipeg Jets are never going to lose again. And all of it's true. Tampa is going to have incredibly low ownership. I could consider it. I really could. Like Kucherov is always enticing to me in any matchup. Like how much do you truly respect Winnipeg defensively? That's I guess really the question at the end of the
day. Oh no, Mark here. No, DJ did not win any qualifiers.
No, someone stacked what I said to stack and won. I won nothing. I got tears.
Yeah, lots of tears. Anyway, there's other comments here, but we'll let the masses line up later on. So I don't know if there was something direct you threw to me, but I'll just say what I was thinking.
No, it's just like is this going to be one of the lowest ownership Kucherov's going to have on the year? Basically the question.
Maybe, and the reason I'm somewhat interested is that you can. So basically, we saw the pairs of Hedman, Moser, McDermott, Chernak, and Lilleberg, Perbix, and Darren Radish was on a power play unit in practice. He was on the second unit. Stand down. Don't worry. He was not on the top unit. We're not doing that again, at least right now. But because he was on the second unit, that makes me think 11-7 is in order. And my number one rule of daily fantasy is if Tampa 11-7, then Kucherov one off. You don't stack him with anyone. You don't say, oh, I'm going to get fancy and play him with his line mates. Like, no, Nikita Kucherov is going to play with everyone. He's going to get shifts with Gensel. He's going to get shifts with Hagel. He's going to get shifts with Zemgus Girgensons. Like, it's just the Kucherov show when they go to 11-7. It's what they've done for years. So 9,400 for Kucherov. He doesn't look stellar at that mark. You know, there's guys who have been more productive than him. He's not shooting quite as much as I would like, but you at least got to consider it if they do confirm to go 11-7, just as sort of one of my rules. And I think if they win 11-7, it's just Cam Atkinson as a scratch. If Cam Atkinson plays for whatever reason, then he's alongside Gensel and Nick Paul based on today's practice. That's a min-salary punt that I could definitely get behind. You know, he's looked pretty cooked this year, but that's in super limited minutes. Even last year, his shot rate was still decent. And of course, over the long term, you know, last 3 years, he's been a really solid per-minute player. So the age cliff could be there for him. But if he's in this role alongside Gensel and Paul, I at least have some tepid interest in a more traditional 12-6 setup for Tampa. Anything else to say before we move on?
No, I think that's almost exactly the correct take. Is the one-off Kucherov situation. If he's with Gensel, I guess I get it, but it just seems like way too much cap to spend. When I think you can capture so much of the upside through one player. So yeah. I think that's a really good call, and people won't think to do it that way. They will stack Tampa, they won't play Tampa, and we can move over to the same game we saw on Tuesday.
A few comments here. Just ignore GA. If GA is out here trolling in the comments, who is protest after protest scores, you know, you don't need to feed the animals. Tim, thank you for the feedback. Glad you enjoy it. We'll be here every Tuesday and Thursday. Well, actually every Monday and Wednesday night from now until the end of the season, hopefully. So yeah, that's cool. Thank you for hanging out. And Wookie. Wild that Tampa is a favorite. Indeed. Jacob, yes, they will never lose a game. Like you know it, we know it. So just ride the wave, baby. Ride the wave.
One Jets team that loses, and it's not in Winnipeg. So yeah, we just saw this game, New Jersey at Florida, and it's once again New Jersey at Florida. Florida played 24 minutes of Barkov, 24 minutes of Reinhart, 22 minutes of Verhaeghe, 20 minutes of Lundell, 18 minutes of Matt Tkachuk. And I guess they also played some other guys. That against a team that, they just, well, I guess, again, that's throwing everything at the wall. But on the other side, as you're pulling up already, New Jersey also played a top three lines and basically didn't play a fourth line at all. They had, McDermott getting 6 minutes, Tatar getting 7, and Hughes, Mercer, and the guys were getting a ton. So, we did see a small change to the top 6 with Nosing going up to the, I guess, nominal second line, at least in this situation. But I do think they kind of roll 1 and 2 pretty regularly. I don't think anyone's really going to go to it, even though it was fine. It definitely wasn't winning the slate with how expensive it was. To go to New Jersey, but are you at all considering the Devils here? Because I'm probably not, but
yeah, no, they did win 4-1. It sounds like Sam Bennett's going to miss again for Florida, so maybe there's something to that. But I'm pretty comfortable leaving it alone. Dougie Hamilton for 6,300 feels like the sort of guy that, I guess you just play Evan Bouchard later on in the slate and he's going to put up 43 for you again. But Dougie feels pretty good. He played 16 minutes last game. It's worth monitoring. They're using Siegenthaler, Kovacevic in more of a shutdown role. So that's the only possible concern. Is that just with a full house defensively, Luke Hughes, Brett Pesce, nice little third pair to have. Maybe his role isn't the same as it was earlier before those guys came back in. But that's just the one thing that stood out to me. Otherwise, everyone feels pretty fairly priced. Not a ton of interest here. So on the Florida side, it's worth noting that with Sam Bennett out of the lineup, Jesper Boqvist stepped in alongside Verhaeghe and Matthew Tkachuk. Boqvist did get secondary power play run as well. I think I'm actually not positive if I don't even actually what it was. They didn't even get a second power play because just the first unit played the entire time, and I think Lundell switched in for someone at some point.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, so I guess this is sort of a guess on Jesper Boqvist. Mackie Samoskevich played a ton alongside Luosterainen and Lundell. It almost looked like that was their second line. So that's kind of cool. Whatever. Samoskevich, 2,500, maybe not the slate for him, but he's a former first rounder. He looks pretty solid. Just hasn't really done much at the NHL level just yet. But worth monitoring because we know that Luosterainen and Lundell work really well together as a third line. If that third line is now the second line, well, now you're looking at a 10.6K line with two players who are historically quite good together in a matchup where, I don't think we're afraid of the third line of New Jersey by any stretch. So, that's somewhat interesting, but are you buying the dip on Carter Verhaeghe 6,800 and Matthew Tkachuk 7,200 without Sam Bennett here? Because those prices are about as low as we'll see for Tkachuk, especially.
I think if it ends up not being Jesper Boqvist, I could consider it. I mean, they got pretty badly bullied, and like Verhaeghe ended up going up to the top line for a while with Barkov and Reinhart throughout the game, and like it just kind of felt messy because it really wasn't working. The Chuck and Verhaeghe gave up 3 pretty easily against at 5-on-5, and they just had nothing to answer. So I guess Sam Bennett might be worthwhile after all, but I don't really see going back to the same matchup that just bashed their brains in and they're saying, well, maybe it'll be different this time. It probably won't. So I'm fine with. I honestly think I'm going to end up fading this game, and I think there's something to it. Like to this game having something. Like you're saying, there's just like a lot of very cheap guys getting enough role where like no one's going to play it. It's just like are any of these guys actually interesting enough to click on? It's a 6 over under. Florida's a -142 favorite. Like the pace is okay at best. And people are going to say, yep, I'm playing Bolinskis or whatever. So talk about him.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about him last show. He did the 4 shots and an assist in a game where they got run over. So, if they do well, maybe he has a bit more in him for us. But 2,700 for a guy on a top power play featuring Barkov, Reinhart, Tkachuk, Verhaeghe seems pretty solid. He's not quite Adam Boqvist, where he's definitely getting like 11 minutes regardless of situation. But his minutes are quite low. He's going to play 15 minutes probably maximum, unless there's like a major penalty in there or something that just boosts up the power play time. But yeah, he's been fine. I can't really poke any holes in his profile. He's 28, so it's not like he's a prospect or anything, but he seems fine enough. He shoots. He's been shooting. He's just very hit or miss as a punt D, which they all are. So I like Bolinskis just fine chasing those points from last slate. Let's get to the main event. The Rock'em Sock'em Barclay Goodrows fighting against the New York Rangers. For the uninitiated, Barclay Goodrow was a New York Ranger. He signed a long UFA deal with the Rangers, including a no-trade clause.
And Matt was a huge fan of the deal. I do want to point that out. That Matt was like, this deal is going to work out really, really well for New York. And was shocked when it didn't. So, Matt,
yes,
always a believer.
And so it worked out so well that over the offseason, they said, well, you're going to need to waive your no trade clause because we're going to trade you. And he said, absolutely not. You're not trading me. I have a no trade clause. And they were like, okay, well, you don't have a no movement clause. So we're going to waive you and send you to the AHL. And well, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, Barclay Goodrow was a member of the San Jose Sharks. And so the Sharks in their, rebuild that they're in, Mike Greer said, well, we'll bring him back. He's a fan favorite, whatever. We need to get to the cap floor is really probably what the real decision there was. And they did. And Barclay Goodrow was he was not happy.
A massive favor too. Like the unnecessarily large favor for the Rangers. Like it might not seem like it, but based on the story, but like the Rangers get out of a pretty big cap burden for nothing, which was the main shock of it. But the revenge narrative is here. I've coming off of his I think he scored the game tying goal against the Flyers, if I recall correctly.
That sounds right.
I think it was the game tire, but
gotta say I did not watch a second of that Flyers Sharks game.
Because you're not a fan. You don't care.
Right. Yes, precisely. So anyway, Barclay Goodrow is on the top line, and it is for a reason. Like that is sort of like what we're getting at. It was Ty Dellandrea before. It's been Michael Granlund, whatever. Barclay Goodrow, Macklin Celebrini, Tyler Toffoli is their top line. Barclay Goodrow has held down a power play 2 job consistently, so really no surprise there. DJ, is Barclay Goodrow at 2,500 going to be in the mix for you on Thursday evening?
Probably not, but I don't think it's wrong. I really don't. 2,500. The minutes have been there. He's seen power play run. The floor is legitimate 0, but he blocks shot. I mean, like there is a story you could tell yourself, and it's not even entirely revenge based that he is in play. You add the revenge factor, and maybe you get 3 shots, 3 blocks, and a point, and you're swimming. So, yeah, no, it's fine. You're praying for the perfect situation. I do think that like I would probably just play Celebrini with it. Like he's getting him there most likely, and Celebrini at 5,500 is probably not going to get a lot of ownership. The matchup's fine. Like the Rangers have not been good defensively.
Yep.
I don't know if like I don't know what you could point to kind of convince yourself that this Rangers team, like I think there's just like maybe I just don't watch enough of them, and I feel like when I have watched them, I'm kind of noticing the holes in some of their aging decor. But yeah, Celebrini is everything looks to me like he's a really good play on this slate. So that's kind of what is bringing me to say, you know what? I think you could click on Barclay Goodrow, but it's not anything crazy. It's again, it's not like a smash spot. I mean, do you think he's going to get any ownership?
I doubt it. I mean,
yeah.
It might get up to like 5% and like, whatever, make you think. But the reason I'm highlighting it is that the Rangers have been one of the league's worst defensive teams all season long. This isn't a recent trend. This isn't one bad game really doing them in. It's been consistent. They've been giving up a ton at 5-on-5. Of course, they have Igor, so expected goals don't mean a ton, but like goalies are goalies, and I don't personally make decisions based on good or bad goaltending. And then, of course, this game environment should be fun because, well, look, San Jose is also pretty bad defensively, which is not a surprise. But it just means that, there should be some tempo.
I look at the San Jose decor and all I see are studs. So that's surprising. But no, I think this is a really good game, and I could see a game stack. I really, really could. As I put on the cover, I put on Mika Zibanejad. Matt, how many goals against was the Zibanejad, Panarin, and Lafreniere out there for at 5-on-5?
Well, seeing as Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele, and Gabe Vilardi combined for 4 goals, I'm going to go with 4.
4 is the correct answer. That didn't make it too far. I wonder if people will maybe not be keen to it because we'll get a practice tomorrow. I'm sure we will get a practice tomorrow, but yeah, that probably isn't going to last.
What practice? I literally told you it wasn't lasting because we got a practice today and it did not last.
Well, hopefully people don't know what they're doing.
Like you. Remember when you sent me the cover and I'm like, well, Zibanejad's not with Panarin. You know that, right? And
I've already put Panarin on the cover. I didn't know who else to put, so I put Zibanejad. I said it, and I said it'd be a good conversation starter.
Okay,
it's
I didn't know what you meant.
It's like wearing a fun shirt to a party. It's a good conversation starter. Okay.
Well,
you don't have to put your favorite play on the cover. I feel like I've never done that. That's part of my bit.
That is true. We can't put the good plays on the cover because then people don't watch the show.
Yeah, they're going to be like, wait, Zibanejad's a good play? These guys are idiots. And then we get to it, like, oh, they're saying Zibanejad's not a good play. They put him on the cover to say that you shouldn't play him because they're funny and they're quirky and they're cool.
Yeah, and what's funny is, Zibanejad, whatever, he's actually been kind of productive and unlucky, which we haven't really been able to say about him for the last couple of years where he's been in a bit of a downturn, statistically speaking. But it does look like he's actually producing decently. Obviously, a good power play spot against the Sharks, and Barclay Goodrow, who's going to be trying to flee the zone for empty net or for shorthanded goals and whatnot. I'm sure. So yeah, I can't say anything bad about it. The Zibanejad line is 14.9K. The Panarin line is 20.4K, and of course that means Panarin, Trocheck, Lafreniere, Kreider, Zibanejad, Smith, and Cooley, Hedel, Kakko, K'Andre Miller, Adam Fox are their top D pair. Ryan Lindgren, Jacob Trouba, Braden Schneider, Zach Jones. Throw a dart. You can pretty much play any of these guys that are not on the literal fourth line. But the Rangers in a good spot. I don't have a particular favorite. I guess it would be Vinny Trocheck Panarin, but like I don't really care. It's a great spot. So just have at it. Have at it, sheeple.
Game, stack it. Celebrini, Goodrow, Trocheck line.
Oh boy.
Print.
Do we even bother with Vegas mess if you need to switch? Do we?
I'm gonna look at it, but
oh boy,
we might as well. Bruce Cassidy's up to his old tricks again.
You know, if we change anything, like what we changed it off of is just nuking. So,
no, wait, this is exactly what we thought it would be.
Yeah, come on, Wookie.
This is well, at least what Matt told me it was.
You know what I'm gonna do. You know what I'm going to do? I am going to show Wookie how smart I am.
Matt's opened his fourth eye before the slate.
I am just so smart. This was my write-up. It was all about Alex Holtz. Literally the entire Vegas write-up was about Alex Holtz. So, yeah, I had Alex Holtz top line. Kudos to me. I'm the best. And let's win all the money because Nick Waugh sucks. All right, St. Louis and Buffalo. Speaking of teams that suck, DJ, what do we have here?
I mean, again, I really like St. Louis against Boston. Went over kind of how that would work out. I think it was more of a, a team that just kind of got. I don't even know what I'd call it. Like I watched a lot of that game because I needed Boston to get there. I thought that top line looked really good. They were not interested in taking low calorie shots. They were up 2-0, and it seemed like they were treading water because they're a bad team and they were playing a metric ton of minutes. I expect that to happen again. I think that, the 23 minutes for Pavel Buchnevich, 20 for Neighbors, and about 20 for Kyrou is not a fluke. Shen on that top power play as well. He scored on the top power play. I do think that like there's something here. Like it's an incredibly cheap, incredibly well correlated stack. I still do respect Buffalo in some capacity, at least defensively. We don't know about Tage Thompson yet. That's up for debate. We don't know about UPL yet. I'm not going to, I do think, especially as a Sabres fan, other Sabres fans are reacting as if we're losing our Vezina caliber goaltender that potentially. But yeah, it's two teams that I see where you'd go with on St. Louis, obviously, because it's really cheap. I'm fine with it. I don't think I'm going to end up having it at the end of the day. It just kind of feels like you're like, ooh, value, and it's not playing a good play. So, yeah, Matt, you can try to talk me into them, but I think I'm just going to stay away.
These two teams are sinking ships offensively. The Sabres started the season okay and have really just tailed off offensively. Their power plays picked up, which has been nice, but of course, without Tage, if he's out, like that's not enough to have me interested. When the other way, the Blues are doing the Blues thing and they're just not shooting. They're not doing much. At least the Blues are super duper cheap. Some of these Sabres are a bit too priced up for me. I'm not interested. Like, again, I don't think the Sabres are bad defensively or anything. I think they're just trying to figure out how to make Jack Quinn work again and, trying to get their offense to do something. But yeah, there's nothing on St. Louis. Yeah, so perfectly correlated line here. Saad, Sundqvist, Kapanen, 8.1K. I don't know. I think they'll all be power play as well, based on what they did last game. It's super stupid, but like, we've done super stupid things before to fit in Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid. So there it is.
Yeah. I think this is like it's an under 6 minus 115. I think that's fair. Bet the under here. Sabres minus 155 favorite still. So the books respecting the Buffalo Sabres. This is a no Tage Thompson. I just don't know why you'd play the Sabres, honestly. I just don't think you do it. But
yeah,
try to convince me if you'd like.
I really don't want to. Rasmus Dahlin rocks, but 6,400, he's right there with the Bouchards of the slate. So, if you want to be unique, go for it, but you're just going to lose. Yeah, that Jack Quinn's completely broken. My best ball bags are weeping for him to do something if Tage misses an extended amount of time, but early returns not looking good. He just doesn't shoot, doesn't do anything. He looks like a product of Marco Rossi, and 3 years ago me was entirely vindicated for saying that Jack Quinn sucks. Alrighty, cool. Ryan McLeod replaces Tage alongside Alex Tuck, though JJ Berturka goes to the Cousins Quinn line. So, not really much there because Ryan McLeod still doesn't get power play time. And that makes me sad, but whatever. We don't care. This game sucks. Boston and Dallas. The Boston Bruins winning slates yesterday. How are they faring against Dallas here?
What did you just say? Probably bad. Lindholm got hurt in the game, by the way. If you look at some of the minutes,
Hampus Lindholm.
Oh yeah, that's a really good point. Didn't even think about that until you just said it. Hampus Lindholm, out. I don't think he's going to play against Dallas. So some of the minutes got a bit inflated, but it did move Mason Lohrei into a really. Okay, yeah, I knew he was out, but okay, Mason Lohrei into a much bigger role where he proceeded to get me an exact 0, which I did no help for my lineup winning. Regardless, I'm not playing Boston against Dallas. It's a rule that I'm basically have set in stone that I'm just not stacking against Dallas. It feels unnecessary. It's not this, I don't really see this perfect correlation that makes it move for me. Like, I don't think Brazeau is anything. I really, Geeky scored. I think he's at least a option when he plays with the best in the world, like Pasternak. But I just would rather. It's sad to say, I'd almost rather play Barclay Goodrow. Like, that's the level of where the slate is at. So, yeah, I get if you go back to Pasternak, he was world beating, but he's not playing St. Louis. He is playing Dallas. So I just don't think you're going to see 10 shots on goal here.
Yeah, I'm certainly not that interested in Pasta at this price, though the Brad Marchand price just refuses to move, and his game logs are extraordinary. His production has been very, very good, and the results are coming around to it. The last, X number of games, he's looking at 6, 4, 4, 12 shot attempts, 2, 7, 5, 6, 6, 9, 6, 7, 6. So you're looking at basically one game below 4 shot attempts in his last however many that was. He's just firing a ton of pucks at the net. He's obviously going to play a ton of minutes. 5,300 in any matchup I would happily do. Now there's several options, of course, on a 10-game slate, but I at least would keep Brad Marchand in mind if you need a one-off. I think I agree with you. Like, I don't think Mason Lohrei sees such a huge boost in his role with no Hampus Lindholm that anyone sort of vaults into play. I don't know who they're going to call up. I don't believe they have a 6th defenseman on the roster right now with all their injuries. So, I don't think they have anyone who would be fun if they called up either, though. So, just sort of an open question of what actually transpires with the Boston blue line. On the other side, Dallas.
Yeah, honestly, I do think one player that is not interesting, but in a similar vein of what we talked about before is Nikita Zadorov. We talked about Scott Mayfield, for example. We're you can play Scott Mayfield, 2,600. He's gonna have to see a bit. Zadorov's probably gonna see 22, 23 minutes. He could hit a blocks bonus. It's in the range of outcomes. He doesn't not shoot at all. He's not good, but again, I think if you're punting, you could do Lohrei, you could do the door off, and I don't think there's a massive difference, but keep an eye on it. Back to
something very weird. Nikita Zadorov is huge. He doesn't really block many shots. It's one of those things where
but why not?
I don't know. I can't really explain it. But the last season plus, he's hit the blocks bonus in 80 something games. He's hit the blocks bonus and never had more than 3 blocks, 8 times, if I'm reading this right. So and that's of course between Vancouver, Calgary, and Boston now. But he's actually a better rate shooter than he is a rate blocker, which again just boggles the mind because he's Nikita Zadorov. He's giant. Just stand there and you got to get blocks, and he just doesn't. So I don't know. I always found that interesting about him, so I figured I would share it. Let's move on to Dallas. Robertson, Hintz, Dodonov, Marchment, Duchesne, Sagan. If you want to just win all the money, pay $15K for Dallas too and get like 97 goals from them. I guess that's a good strategy. Jamie Benn, Wyatt Johnson, Logan Stankoven, and the fourth line of Bork, Steele, and Blackwell. Another roulette wheel of which Dallas line do we pick? I believe we were wrong on Monday. We bet on Jason Robertson, who in an 8-1 game had 0 points. So really, really cool stuff there. What are we doing with Boston or with Dallas?
Don't listen to me. Don't listen. I'm just not doing it at all. I don't care. I get it. Mason Marchman's going to have 5 points, and then Robertson's going to have 6 points, and then if you want, do it. I'm not. I don't think Boston's really they're just going to make the game boring. Like, I really think they're turning into, they're trying to tread water when Pasternak's not out there and Marchand's not out there, and I think this game sets up to be a pretty big snooze fest. I get the prices are fine, but I think Duchesne and those guys are overpriced because they're just outperforming their expecteds, and Robertson and Hintz are just never, ever going to get there. So good luck. Have fun if you play it. I won't be.
Yeah, that seems about right. And the same deal as Marchand for Dallas, though. Miro Heiskanen's been awesome, and the price just doesn't reflect that.
Yep.
I'm a long-time anti-Miro guy, but I gotta hand it to him. He's been shooting a ton. He's been very involved. So yeah, we like when good players do the fantasy things. It's very much Quinn Hughes-esque without a Quinn Hughes price tag attached. So good matchup for him too against the Boston Bruins, who are a bit of a paper tiger, given the way their season has started. Though they still might make the playoffs because, no one in the Atlantic actually wants to, string together multiple wins. All right. Montreal and Minnesota. Montreal screwed their lines up in a pretty dramatic way prior to the Buffalo game and then won, so they don't change. Slavkovsky, Suzuki, Doc, Newhook, Evans, and Caulfield as the second line. The other two lines also exist, but maybe not totally relevant. So any interest in Montreal here against the Wild?
No, I don't have any interest. I don't even really. I get it. Again, it's just like, oh yeah, the top line is cheap and correlated, and I almost would rather play the Blues. So no, I think Kerbydock is bad. I think Slavkovsky is unlucky, but I don't really understand why they're not just putting Caulfield with them, and I just stopped playing Caulfield with Jake Evans scoring an unbelievable. Like, what is his shooting percentage now? 30%? Yeah, 30%. Super.
Sounds about right.
Cool.
The Lane Hudson price is coming back down to earth. If you like to just bet on talent, he got a 5-on-3 shift with the big guns. He took over for Matheson. I don't know if you trust a guy in the 5-on-3 but not the 5-on-4. Like, what's the point? If you think Hudson better, just use him. But yeah, 3,500 for Lane Hudson is fine. He's been cool. He's been fun to watch. He tries things, and that's always it's always nice to see when super talented guys try things, and he's at a cheap price tag. Minnesota long-term team, you play D against them. I don't know if that's still true or not. It was very true based on like 4 years ago. But yeah, Slavkovsky, Suzuki, they're too cheap for what they've been doing. 9,500 for the duo. But yeah, that's a turbo slate thing, I think, versus a 10-game full slate. Minnesota side of the house, not expecting any changes. Marcus Johansson missed practice, though they had a stand-in. I don't even remember who the stand-in was, but it was like, oh yeah, that guy's definitely not playing in the top 6 on Thursday, so we should be good to go. Meaning Kaprizov, Rossi, Zuccarello, the top line for Minnesota against Montreal cost you $21,000. DJ, what are your thoughts on Minnesota here?
Yeah, I feel like I haven't really mentioned too many sacks I love. Like, I've mentioned a couple here or there, but this is one I definitely love. I could go all the way, and I think it's kind of one of those things where we talked about it before of like, could you one off, a Kucherov? Could you one off like Kaprizov? I just think that one up in Kaprizov feels unnecessary. Whereas I get it for Kucherov. So yeah, I go all the way probably here. I honestly think you could just do Kaprizov, Zuccarello, Boldly. It's a metric ton of your cap, maybe even throw Rossi in. But there's some punts that we've already mentioned and a few more that might come up. So it's doable. Like this Montreal team is really, really, really bad. Very bad defensively. They're not good in net. There's just a lot of angles that you could attack and feel good about. I think that I'm willing to say it's my favorite sack of the night. I'm just not sure how I'm going to play it yet. So yeah, pretty high on it.
Yeah, that's I don't have any problems with anything you said there. So I will always, I guess, for whatever reason, just keep looking at Hartman and Freddie Gaudreau because they're still 7,500 for the duo, and they're both producing pretty good expected fantasy point per game numbers. It's kind of an implicit leverage bet on Kaprizov because Minnesota does do a pretty strict like power play 1, power play 2. They're not just running 2 minutes with the big guns usually. So if the first unit doesn't score, out come Hartman and Gaudreau when they kind of do things and they're kind of good. So like I don't know, I'm fine with that. Again, depth in Montreal certainly a spot to attack. So all that I think points in that favor. Though, do you need this line for that cheap? I don't know, probably not. So, Hartman, Freddie Gaudreau, Johansson, Rossi, Spurgeon are the power play 2 there. If if you're trying to just find cheap ways to get exposure to Minnesota, this is certainly a team where you could stack any line and get away with it, given how Montreal has fared so far this season. Anything else to add before we move on?
No, it's Minnesota, amazing spot. We can move on to the Leon Draisaitl Bowl. Once again, we are back, folks. We are back to Leon Draisaitl playing against
They play
Nashville.
every day.
I think this is the third time. I'm pretty sure. So
it is, yes.
Every single game is just it's Nashville is playing either in or at home against Edmonton. This time they were in Edmonton. Man, it is a different vibe than I think we expected at this point in the year for the Nashville Predators. Not going quite as planned. They have quite a few, I think, very, very, very good players. And for whatever reason, things just aren't working out. I can see why you'd go to Nashville here. I really could. I probably not. The price just doesn't really reflect what I'd like to do here. And I think the problem is that I want to play Yossi no matter what. And at 7,800, I'm just struggling to find a lineup I think that's going to work that includes him. It's no fault of his own. It's just that's kind of I think the problem here is like I could consider it. I do think it's honestly not even. I don't think it's wrong in any capacity. How do I put it together? And I think the answer is just going to be I can't.
I'm waiting for I Like Kitties here to say the line. Say the line, Bart. Just say the line. No, we're not playing Brock Faber. He sucks. He played 27 minutes against Chicago and had 1.3 fantasy points. Congratulations, donkeys. You get punished. Just don't do it. We're not doing it.
I didn't even see what you were doing. Yeah, no. He's like the thing is that I don't. It's the thing from the show where it's like I don't think about you at all. People are, you know what I mean? It's like I just don't think about him because he's irrelevant.
Yeah.
Like he's always overpriced because he's not good. And he'll throw 3 assists up twice a year. He says Spurgeon. Well, okay. Anyways,
I said his name. I said Jared Spurgeon's name. So just grow up. Here we go. All right. Forsberg, O'Reilly, Stamkos. Yeah, they're fine. Like you were saying. I don't know. Do I really want to spend up on Nashville? I don't think I do, but like at least they're pretty concentrated. Phil Tomasino, he's good. We like him. Is he gonna get minutes? I don't know. You tell me. That's the only problem. You just can't really trust it. So yeah, that's the only unfortunate part of this. I'm not playing Nashville on this slate in all honesty. So I'm good to move on. If
they moved up Marchessault to play with Forsberg and O'Reilly, I think I'd give Marchessault, Forsberg, Yossi a look. I think the Stamkos thing is really not working out, but we'll see. I won't be on it probably, but we can move over. So Edmonton coming off of the nuke of all nukes, just put the Slate and me so far into the grave and to bed that I don't think I ever wanted to wake up, but I did, and I moved on and I got onto the next slate where they could bury us again, but this time Leon Draisaitl. He's expected to have 5 to 6 points. However they want to come, they'll come. It doesn't matter. This is his favorite team to play against. Last time he had 3 points, 2 goals. The slappies were just slapping. The game before that, he only had an assist. So this time, he went from 1 to 3 to 5. Anything that you want to say about the Edmonton Oilers that wasn't already said on Tuesday?
No, we're just banning. We're banning Wookie. He's gone. Goodbye. RNH being on the top line is kind of fun. He's better than Jeff Skinner because he's on that top power play.
Yeah, 9.3 classic.
Yeah, that sometimes happens.
The Brock Faber of the Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah, seriously.
It's just so dumb.
Yeah, we know the drill. It's Edmonton. If you stack them, they're gonna get 2 goals, and you're gonna be like, "Cool, why did I spend all this money on them?" And if you don't, it's gonna be 1-1 heading into the third period, and the third period's gonna go absolutely apeshit. Pick your path, pick your poison, whatever.
And I'll play Minnesota, and they'll have 4 goals from Kaprizov, and I'll still lose because Edmonton will just do their thing. Okay.
All right, narrative street. Wookie with the correct take. Well, I don't know if this is the correct take, but McDavid is 1 away from 1,000 points.
Oh yeah.
So he's definitely getting a point. Though, if he gets that point, does he just get healthy scratch for the rest of the game? Keep him in that case. Make sure he can go to his Hall of Fame induction ceremony. Does that happen? I don't know. Probably not. Yeah.
Actually, Matt, here's the question. Pull up the other. Is Nashville that bad defensively? I think that's there's so much wrong here, but how have they actually looked defensively? I almost feel like it hasn't quite been, or at least it's starting to trend back the right way.
It's average.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's average.
They're an average team. Makes sense.
They're an average team. Yep. There it is.
Do you know who's not average?
Connor McDavid and the Edmonton Oilers.
You mean Connor McAverage relative to Connor McMichael, the GOAT, but sure.
He has 0 shots on goal, but I need him to have 2. Please don't bring him up right now.
Okay, that is true. You are in.
Tom Wilson has 6.
Well, that's what happens when good players get with donkey chuckers. All right. I don't have anything else to add here. The non-Bouchard defensemen have been properly priced up for their recent production, so I think we're just in the Bouchard or nothing classification for Edmonton. Islanders at Vancouver, the Bo Horvat Revenge Bowl.
It is.
Yeah, that's about all I got for you. What is the line and stuff on this game?
Got to be bad. 6 over under, -105 on the over. Vancouver -175. The Islanders scored 3. They hit the post 3 times, but they only have 1.6 expected goals against the Edmonton Oilers. I just can't see any scenario where I'd actually click on any Islanders here. The price has come up a bit. I do get that Horvat. I mean, honestly, Andersley's been good. And he scored twice. I get it. He only had 2 shots. He scored twice, 2 attempts. I should even add. And the prices come up. I understand looking at that and saying you could be stupider than playing this. At the same time, I think it's not good at all. I like Vancouver a lot in this spot. They're probably my second or third favorite stack of the night. I don't have any interest in playing the Islanders. So you can try to convince me if you'd like.
Yeah, we have multiple games now of Oliver Wahlstrom on Power Play 1. Believe it or not, his expected fantasy points are still below 3 per game. It turns out he's not taking 97 one-timer opportunities on the power play like I would do if I were, if I were running that power play unit. I'd be like, hey, passes to that guy, and they're not doing that. So he's going to play 6 minutes, but it'll be fun at least.
The Jack Quinn of the New York Islanders is what I'm understanding.
Literally. Yeah, I similarly have no interest in these prices, especially as they are on the rise. Vancouver side, far more interesting.
Yeah.
I complained about this right off the bat about the Pius Suter Lekaramaki nonsense, but line one, power play one, Jonathan Lekaramaki. He was sent to the AHL today. Don't worry, that's a paper transaction. We'll see him get called up again tomorrow, and he will be in the lineup unless Brock Besser makes a miraculous recovery from his concussion. So that's very clearly a top play. Do you
Yep.
play JT Miller with it? I think is an interesting question because JT Miller is a pass first player. Typically, when a 3K scorer and a 6K passer get together, you're going to want the goals. You're going to want those points, and you don't really need the 10 points from JT Miller or whatever. But, of course, if he gets a 3-point night, if he mixes in a blocks bonus, or if he just decides to be the donkey chucker of the night, which he's done on some occasion, he's the guy in charge.
Yeah, he is.
It could be worthwhile.
If you look up donkey chucker in the dictionary, he is actually the poster child. But like, it's not always. But like, when he is,
it's tactical. I actually think it's tactical because he's always holding the puck. He's like, well, if they think I'm passing this period, I'm just gonna shoot, and then it's like it's like priming a defense in NFL. Like, oh, I'm gonna run to the left, run to the left, run to the left, play action, deep shot, touchdown. Like that's the way I see it, at least with him. Yeah. But maybe I'm giving him too much credit for being intelligent. He's a hockey player after all, and we're all idiots.
No, I just all of this is true. I have absolutely no problem with like even one-offing any of the pieces here that you really like. You could play Pettersson Garland, you could play one-off Pettersson, you could play Miller Lekermaki. I don't know why I call him Lettermaki. Lekermaki. You could just play Lekermaki on his own. You could, again, Quinn Hughes is always in the mix when you're playing Vancouver. Yeah. 7,300 is getting closer to the right number. I don't know if it's all the way to the correct spot yet. This Islanders team is bad. I feel like at the end of the day, the question is, do you want to stack against the Islanders or not? Is the question you have to just ask. Like, are they so boring at this point without Matt Barzal and just kind of inept and slow that you just don't really feel the necessity?
That's kind of where I'm at, honestly. Yeah. Like, obviously, McDavid's McDavid. He's going to do supernova things, but that game was boring. Like, there's no one alive who would be like, yeah, that game was, 4-3 thriller. Like, it was 40 minutes of just nothing, and then it just went crazy because Skinner forgot how to make a save, and, McDavid did McDavid things. So, it's my fear with the Islanders losing Barzal, replacing him with league average grinder types. Like, you're just not getting a ton of tempo here. And yeah, this slate is a slate where you're not going to have a lot of tempo in a lot of spots, like I covered at the beginning. So finding that team that scores 5 or 6 goals and getting, maybe an overstack in there, certainly a viable way to go if you're targeting Vancouver. We saw Vancouver as massive chalk the other night. I expect them to be massive chalk yet again. And I just don't think that's warranted. Like, it's more of an ownership game than anything else. And so maybe I'll mix in a Lekaramaki one-off because I truly believe that he does have the sort of profile that I want my DFS players to have, just given his prospect profile and what he was doing in the minors. I believe in the AHL, he was at 5 shots a game, which is, ridiculous, but very much in, to be expected based on what he was showing overseas at the age of 19. So, for me, it's like a Ramaki and pretty much nothing else, but I'll keep a gauge on ownership. If it does look like they're all going to be 5-10%, I have no problem overstacking it with Pettersson, Garland, DeBrusk, Lekaramaki, Quinn Hughes, something like that just sort of mixes and matches across even strength lines and power play units. All right.
All of that sounds good to me. Yeah.
Final game
of the night.
Yes, final game, Chicago and Seattle.
Yeah. I've also mentioned one note that I haven't really been covering the over-unders and all that stuff. Every single game is a 6 except for San Jose and the Rangers, 6.5, and the Canadians and Wild are 6.5. Both of them are plus money on the over. So like everything's pretty much even. Not a metric ton of huge favorites. The Wild and the Rangers and everything else is pretty in the middle. And this is no different. 6 over-under, minus 162 on the Kraken side of the house. I think that the one thing that I keep, just like trying to sum up this Blackhawks season, it's kind of a difficult one where it's like, I do think there's been enough improvement to where, especially, if you're looking into the future, you could say that there's starting to be a shell of a team here, and maybe you're starting to move in the right direction in some capacity for the Blackhawks, but it's just not been fun or exciting. They defensively haven't been a complete nightmare. They're offensively, when Bedard is Bedarding, and when he's not, there's a couple guys like, like you're kind of showing your Bertuzzi's been fine. Other than that, Donato has been a bit of a bright spot. They're kind of spreading the wealth again. This iteration of the Blackhawks of Kurashev, Bedard, Teravainen, it just doesn't do it for me. I don't think I'm going there. Bedard is a fine price, of course, for the talent that we know he has, but when they're not putting him in the best opportunities to succeed offensively, I just don't really think it's necessary on this big of a slate. He saw 17 minutes. The power play is not very correlated at all. Neither Kurashev or Teravainen were on that top unit with him last game. I don't know if that's going to change. I think it's going to be Teravainen now, but it's also fragile. Everything is fragile here. Everything could change. Bedard is going to see his Bedard stuff, but everything else is up for debate. So I just think I'm fading them until further notice. But you could try to convince me there's something here.
I won't try too hard. I'll just say Donato, Dickinson, Anderson is a line that you want to avoid if you're trying to line match Seattle up to pick a line to target. Like whatever line gets that line is just a black hole. Jason Dickinson continues his run of excellent play. Joey Anderson is probably their best pure defensive player on the team. And Ryan Donato has been very good, like you said. So I don't really think, that's not DFS relevant, but maybe for Seattle purposes, it could be. The power play with Donato, maybe he gets into consideration. But yeah, for me, it's Bedard, Teravainen, and nothing else even crosses into consideration. I'll look into Teravainen's rates with and without Bedard so far this year, but I suspect that they're far better with Bedard than without. So they're sort of reuniting them to try and get something to go together. Two more things. There's a really cool feature in Chicago Magazine about Connor Bedard. That, I don't know, was just sort of about his approach to hockey and was a cool read and, nice to learn a little bit more about him. And then lastly, Alec Martinez should be back for Chicago, paired with Seth Jones. He's only played 4 games this year, but in those games, he has an assist and 2 blocks. He has 7 blocks and then 3 and 3 blocks in those 4 games. So 4,300, he opened the season at 5K. This was a guy who in the first week, I was like, I'm just playing Alec Martinez, baby. I'm getting my locked in 10 points at D and moving on. The power play 2 role is not currently there. They practice with Vlasic there, but whatever. If you really like it, yes, it was nice to have in that first week of the season when he was power play 2, but it doesn't really matter. Playing with Seth Jones and Connor Bedard for the majority of the game, I think Alec Martinez is very much in play just because he's one of the best per minute defensive players in the league because he's like a sheer lock for 9 blocks or 9 points via blocks like every night on average. So anything from there is a bonus. All right, Seattle.
Yeah, I mean, they're playing. I don't know. It's not for me, dog. I don't know what to tell you. Not a ton here to really go in on. They're still kind of doing the Seattle thing of spreading a lot of the 5-on-5 minutes throughout all the lines. None of these lines make me incredibly excited. The correlations are a bit of a mess, and even the ones that are there for you, as in like a McCann Everly, just aren't very sexy and don't really have, the appeal of a. I mean, again, like you look at that line and you say, it's not that overpriced, 10,500 for the 2. We could add Beniers in, you're not, and all of a sudden you're looking at a stack that I just think is the worst, if not the same as the St. Louis Blues 1. And I think Chicago might be a bit better defensively than I ever expected. They get Alex Martinez back. He is not great, but he'll block shots, kind of take away from these guys, and feels, again, unnecessary. Like the problem on this slate is going to be, how do you successfully fit in one of these top end stacks? There's a few of them. There's, I argue, probably 3 that are going to be at least in most people's consideration set, with Edmonton, Minnesota, and the Rangers. There's a few to get around it that I've already mentioned. I think people will look to Seattle just at home against Chicago. It just makes sense. I don't think that's where I'm going to be going personally. But if you play Tolvanen, you're not stupid. He can score a goal from anywhere. If you play McCann, you probably can't afford him, but it makes sense. And then everyone else just feels incredibly thin.
Yeah, I'm pretty much there as well. Not much exciting here, and again, probably get some ownership wins headed this way. Whereas I sort of just prefer the earlier spots on the slate for some value options we've discussed. So, all right, let's get to our top stacks and guarantee goals. Do you have something in mind?
Sure. I will just go with Minnesota, and I'll just go Kaprizov with Boldly and Zuccarello. I understand it's not perfectly correlated. If you just can't afford Boldly and you can't afford Rossi, it's fine. But it just does really feel like it's I don't think that combination is going to be piled on as much when it comes to Minnesota. It's incredibly expensive. It's all wingers, but I do think there's a good number of punts that can make this puppy sing, if you will.
For sure. Puppies will be singing. Let's keep picking on the New York Rangers. I'm going to go San Jose top line. Macklin Celebrini between Tyler Toffoli and the revenge spot of the century and Barclay Goodrow. 13K for that line. And Celebrini, Toffoli have been quite good. The power play actually seems competent. So I think there's several outs here for the Sharks to get their top line home.
I really do like that a lot. I do think that the cards are going to flip over and my lineup might not have two incredibly correlated stacks. Like I might have a bit of a 4. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I could see a 4 and then like some one-offs and whatnot. So I'm not sure where it's going to start though. So I'm just going to go with a stack that I'm really considering, and that's just Trocheck, Panarin, and Lafreniere. And I would put Lafreniere in there. I think when he comes down below 5K, I like to kind of keep him in mind when I'm stacking those two. Like if Panarin is putting the slate to bed with 4 points, Lafreniere could absolutely score. He's basically a point a game player. The rates aren't terrible. The role is just not quite as big as it probably should be, but he could definitely put up 20 for you in that kind of a situation. And of course, you couldn't even get close to stacking those two together in any way, but whatever.
All right. I am going to I think I saved enough money for it with the San Jose line. So I'm just going to say Edmonton 1, RNH, McDavid, Hyman. McDavid's awesome. I mean, what can you do? I think I was driving the bus of like, oh, this Nashville thing is weird and might not work. And we're seeing them sort of round into form, like we showed their defense has been pretty average, and that's allowed them to actually string together a few wins here. But yeah, McDavid's McDavid. There's really no disputing that. So why not just stack around him for my top stack?
All right. I went stacks first. You could go goal first. I'd be very interested to hear where you start, so then I can kind of make my plan. Last time we were 2. I had both of mine correct, and you missed both of yours. McCann and Velarde scored, and Marner and Hedel did not. So, Matt, you better pick it up.
Okay. Well, that is a swift kick in the rear. Have I used Josh Norris lately? Is that?
I don't know if we have it all. This is exactly where I'm glad that you're going to go this direction. Then that works well. Right. So you're going to go with Norris, so then I can go high-low. I'm going to go with Lekaramaki. Is that would we go with how you say it?
Yep.
Lekaramaki, I believe is correct. So I'm going to start with my low guy at 3K for Lekaramaki, just to give myself that good 8,000 to work with. So
okay, so I have 6,200. I'm just gonna go Mika Zibanejad. We made him the cover boy. I think DJ was unintentionally trying to get me off of Mika Zibanejad, and there's actually some signs of life here. 10.7 expected fantasy points per game over his last 10. He's back with his old friends, Chris Kreider and Riley Smith. Maybe they just needed a break from one another, and now they're back. They're ready to go because Zibanejad lights the lamp for us against.
Who's the other cover guy?
Oh no, was it really Josh Norris?
Yeah.
Oh my God, you completely psyoped me. You completely psyoped me. Uh-oh.
Oh man. All right. I don't care if it's 100 off. I'm going Leon Draisaitl for the entire bid to get home tonight.
Wow. Yes, they are playing Nashville, aren't they?
Clowns.
All right. Let's close it up. We got to watch this overtime for the Leafs Caps.
They did. Oh my God, Marner, your guaranteed goal last time, it didn't get there.
Yep.
Oh my
Doesn't
God,
matter
McMichael,
because
you stupid idiot. Please,
Carolina's going to get shut out by Utah. Very fun. All right. Well, let's get out of here though. I'm on Twitter at Fake Moods.
Cry.
DJ's at DJ_Mitchell94, and the podcast is at Morningscape Pod. If you're on the audio feed, you can find it DJ's YouTube channel. I believe it's super simple now. It's youtube.com/@NHLDJ, all one word. So pretty easy to find if you not found your way over to it yet.
I know. I did that like months ago, and it's actually like a pretty sharp move by me, and I just never mentioned it at all once. It's pretty cool.
It broke the links I had, so yeah, I noticed it right away in the podcast and stuff. Anyway,
smart.
I wrote up the Wednesday slate in my newsletter. Check that out in the link in the description. I will possibly do Friday slate, and yeah, stay tuned for more to come. Anything you want to plug?
Yeah, if you want to bet on players like Connor McMichael to have their worst outcomes, you can follow my Dub Club thing. Everything hit so far except McMichael. So I'm going to be hoeing, I'm going to be humming, and I'm going to be crying in 5 more minutes.
All right. Let's get out of here. Thank you all for joining us. From Doug, from DJ, from myself, have a good Thursday slate, everybody, and we will see ya.